Hey folks! Today I'll cover a very interesting indie game that I've been meaning to play since the last year. Lorn's Lure. I've been keeping an eye on this project since its release, and when I checked my Steam wishlist for inspiration, I felt it was finally time to play it. The other candidates were Helix 2 and Artist Impact, but their time will come later. So, Lorn's Lure is, in simple words, a first-person platformer/parkour game that boasts a fascinating and cryptic personality. Perhaps it doesn't reinvent anything in terms of gameplay, but what sets it apart is its dark atmosphere, the retro-aesthetic art style, the incredible sense of scale, and some underlying themes like the search for purpose, all set in a gigantic mega-structure inspired by the manga series Blam. Yes, Blam. I don't know about you, but finding out after many years that the correct pronunciation is not blame surprised me, if not downright shocked me. Anyway, in Lorn's Lure we play as a nameless and sentient android that one day decided to leave his peaceful home colony outside the colossal structure to venture into the unknown, as if he felt called by something. In the specific, by a ghostly or rather glitchy bird-like entity that literally lured him inside. We'll see how his choice to leave his home has had terrible consequences, such as the fact that for over 200 years he has wandered aimlessly in an alien environment, and before his artificial lifespan expires, he must find again the ghost, that is perhaps the only way out, and for this he must continue to descend into an abyss of metal and concrete. After the intro, the game doesn't waste time with tutorials. All the basic commands and mechanics are quickly showed on screen as we pass through this tunnel and jump and grab on ledges and metal beams. In its own way, Lorn's Lure is a brutal game where the enemy is gravity, and also vertigo, if you ever suffer from it. I do not, in video games. Every misstep and unprecise jumps will lead us to death, but fortunately almost every ledge and platform counts as a checkpoint, and very rarely I had to redo long segments to reach the area of death, and loadings are almost instantaneous. The interface is minimal, and depending on how high we fall or how fast we slide, these indicators on the sides will let us know when the fall is fatal, with the addition of a warning sound. Do you see it? The vast scale of the structure? The only other game that gave me such vibes was The Last Guardian. Many times I fell into nothingness, just to see how far it goes down with the actual platforms that can be reached. It's very impressive. This game doesn't feature yellow ledges and the like to hint the player how to progress. We can only activate a classic GPS marker, but it's up to us to figure out how to reach it. I've always tried to use it as little as possible, and sometimes I've explored and tried to reach impossible corners, which turned out to be pointless endeavors and wasted a lot of time. It frustrated me, but at the same time I felt amused. The first, let's call it milestone of the game, is to recover the icepicks, and near them we can also analyze the remains of the unfortunate person who used them before. We learn that anyone who enters the structure is an observer, and the percentage of lucky people who manage to escape is less than 1%. That's very encouraging. Climbing using the icepicks is one of the game's main mechanics, and the arrow above the crosshair indicates that the surface is climbable. Climbing also consumes stamina, which is the little bar under the crosshair. When it ends, we lose the grip and fall, hence we'll have to study the surroundings and figure out the best path to follow to reach the desired places. Lorn's Lure is not just the pursuit of the ghost throughout endless parkour challenges, but also the discovery of a mysterious world filled with unanalyzable elements scattered everywhere, whether it's the remains of observers, pieces of technology, terminals, and so on. It's a game permeated with a certain cynicism, with even small tragic stories. For example, early on, we might find this message left by an observer, which tells us that for centuries he lived next to a power supply, and before becoming completely paralyzed, decided to jump off, at least to see what the bottom looks like. Exploring and getting lost can lead to loneliness, paranoia, and perhaps even madness. And over the course of the game's 8 chapters, we'll even discover the remains of civilizations that once existed within the mega-stracture, which extension and origins are never explained. It simply exists. Each chapter has its own style and story to tell, and sometimes even introduces a new mechanic that can reflect its setting and enriches the overall gameplay. The first chapter gives us the icepicks, and the second, set in the fascinating failed biome, introduces tic-tac, which is basically a wall jump that consumes a bit of stamina. Then comes the third, waste tunnels. The place is pitch black, and we'll have to shoot flares, which are powered by the surrounding high levels of radiation. Navigating these dark caves, full of tight passages, and what remains of a sort of failed expedition that just makes everything more cheerful, was tiring, but in a good way. Now, at this point, I would say that the first 3 chapters were my favorites, because later there are parts I didn't enjoy as much. The fourth, called Ancient Cistern, is more straightforward and also a bit simplistic compared to the rest of the game. It's set in a temple-like environment, filled with clean water that kills us on the slightest contact. Seriously, water is the biggest hazard within the mega-stracture, and by analyzing these wall hearts, we'll delve deeper into some religious lore. It's a transitory part that leads to the 5th chapter, Undercity, which is still quite fun to play and explore. The first long part is very cool. I got a bit lost trying to figure out the right path here and there, and reaching the city was hella satisfying. The city, or better to say the Undercity, has a story to tell, and even some interactable NPCs. Also, there's to solve one of the very few puzzles of the entire game, which I solved almost by accident, by shooting a flare into this container. I was surprised. And always in this city we'll unlock the ability that, for me, kinda breaks the game. The dash jets. Let me explain. When we're mid-air and with full stamina, we can perform up to 2 dashes that will make us cover long distances while aiming upwards. From this point on, there will be less climbing and much more jumping. The 6th chapter contains some very obnoxious sections that spoiled my overall enjoyment. Foundation takes us very deep, to what appears to be the very foundation of the structure, but I must say that this desertic setting didn't appeal to me at all. It's pretty boring, and the platforming segments at the mercy of strong winds annoyed me to say the least. There are some interesting parts that even deepen the lore, but unfortunately we get to one of the worst places in the whole game, the one that perhaps I hated the most. See this gigantic building? This freaking tower? It made me suffer. Figuring out how to reach the top almost drove me crazy. I'm not joking. Not only due to the strong winds that push away, but also for the specific combination of jumps I had to guess. I get creeps just watching these clips while making this video. The 7th chapter, Sunken City, is, let's say, not that memorable for the most part. From the start, due to an unfortunate event, we'll be without our icepicks, and we'll be forced to carry on with dashes and clumsy maneuvers to reach impossible edges and niches. Believe me, certain parts were very frustrating. The whole level felt very drawn out, and oh look, there's a flying submarine in the sky. That's cool. Aside from that, the ending of this chapter is very intriguing, and opens the way for the final chapter, where I'm not telling you anything. Okay, maybe just a few things. There will be some very minor spoilers like the previous parts, but here's a countdown anyway. So, the 8th chapter called Dissolution is very controversial. If you go to the Steam discussions, you'll find a few threads about it, and from the titles you can tell that not everyone likes it. Let's just say that the game first introduces a new mechanic, the grappling hook, that you have to learn to master right away, and then something happens. Something very unexpected. It's the beginning of a race against time, different from everything the game has been up to that point, except for a tiny segment that I haven't shown you. In my opinion, it would have been much better if the grappling hook had been obtainable earlier, in the Sunken City. Perhaps that level would have been more fun. It took me many hours to finish this goddamn final chapter, and as humiliating as it is to say, I even did over 1800 retries. Yes, I'm that bad. After the end of the credits, I went and watched videos of people capable of doing deathless runs of the tail, and even one who uses the simple double dash instead of the grappling hook. You have my fucking respect, pal. Anyway, there's a different way. By enabling in the options the Explorer mod, which is basically a sort of easy mod, we can restart the 8th chapter and later get another totally different experience, in line with the previous levels, and with a different ending, which is actually a kind of bad ending. I have mixed feelings about all this, but still I think it's a nice touch. And this was my journey through the world of Lorn's lore, whose atmosphere, themes and background to uncover captivated and fascinated me until the very end, even if some parts were rather disappointing to play. Like that fucking tower. The winds. The horror. Now, talking about other things, the mega-stracture is indeed immense, its vastness is even oppressive, and the retro aesthetic art style perfectly fits the game, but, technically speaking, it suffers from occasional stuttering that, yes, bothered me a bit. By the way, I also loved the music score. The ambiental tracks composed by Fracture create a perfectly desolate and mysterious atmosphere, and the sound effects were also fine and never annoying. The game can be quite long and last more than 10 hours, depending from your skill, will to explore and completionism. In my case, I freaking suck and died hundreds of times in every chapter, thus losing a lot of time. Besides, in every level there are scattered crystals that unlock some kind of challenges called simulations, and when they're near we can hear a twinkling sound. Now, I tried to find them during the first 3 chapters, but after I discovered they do not unlock anything story-related, I simply gave up, because finding them is also very, very time-consuming. Reaching the end of Lorn's lore has been a great experience, and I applaud the author, Rubeki, for creating such a game. I hope that my video will also reach your curiosity and inspire you to try this indie production, which, despite its flaws, is a journey worth taking. As always, a warm thanks to all viewers, and see you in the next entry.